Hello, folks. We're doing a little adjusting because we are again broadcasting live on our Facebook page and our Instagram page, and I think we're both set. So like we said, we promised we're always going to broadcast somewhere different, and we wanted to show you the snow today. We were going to go up in front of the Capitol, but I have a Zoom meeting I have to get on at 12:15, so we're going to keep this really short, and we're going to we needed to be close to our office, but as you might be able to see somewhere in the background, you can see the Capitol Dome.
It's like right over there, but it might be hard to see.
We might move the camera at the end, but one thing that's nice is we're very close, so even when we're working in our offices, we can always get up there quick to work on important things. So let's jump in and talk about a few of the bills we worked on this week.
Yeah, so as we're talking, just make sure you're commenting below and letting us know that you're here so we can say hi. But anyways, yeah, so some of the stuff that we start working on this week, well, first off, we had a couple really important meetings, and we wanted to say thank you to the different parts of this administration that made a point to reach out to us to keep us involved with what they're doing. So
very nice.
We had an opportunity to meet with the Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks this week to talk about some upcoming legislation and kind of get the conversation going. So we really appreciated that opportunity.
Yeah, they're working on some elk management tools that is kind of a new outside of the box approach. The language of the bill that they were discussing is available now. It just became available yesterday, and we're looking forward to combing through that and seeing what it has in it of interest to farmers and ranchers. So we do think big thanks to Quentin for reaching out to us, and the new director, Mr. Director Warsich, for meeting with us and sharing their thoughts on there, and not just us, but other ag groups and wildlife groups too. So they brought us all together to be able to share information and just let us know what was coming up, which is a really nice change.
Yeah, we appreciate having a conversation with all the stakeholders. And with that kind of brings us to our next meeting. That was really important for us this week that got, brought everyone to the table so we could have a conversation. So Nicole, if you want to kind of talk about what we did this week at that meeting.
Sure. Actually, at the request of the governor, he invited Montana Farm Bureau as well as some other ag groups and some in the building and housing industries together to talk about some water issues and just to kind of get a conversation going and learn about all of our issues. It was a really productive meeting on a tough subject, and so really appreciate him, taking the time to meet with all of us and to listen to our concerns and our positions and to kind of help us, work on these important issues. So it was very productive indeed.
Yeah, and so after we had quite a few meetings this week, and we testified a lot, but a huge part of our week is getting ready for next week and all of the bills that are starting to drop as things are getting close to transmittal date. So we've had a busy week, and I'm sure you saw some of our Facebook posts about some of the different bills that we were working on this week, and some of them had to do with last week too. So I know last week we touched on some bison bills that I testified on, and then this week there were a couple more bison bills that Nicole got to testify on. And we went in on two of those on Tuesday in House Ag.
Yeah. So some of these, it's funny, some of this stuff we'll talk about today is like same old and some of it's new, and the bison stuff is kind of some of the same old, because these are two bills that we've supported over the last several sessions that have passed the legislature and then been vetoed by the governor, the former governor. So we are hoping to finally get some resolution on this issue and to be able to move past some of these concerns. And also what the bills were is House Bill 302 and House Bill 318. 302 is the bill that clarifies the definition of what a wild bison is. It clarifies it in both sections of code where it's referenced, which is livestock and fish, wildlife, and parks. So it's important to have that consistency and the clarity, because obviously we talk about wild bison, but there's also domestic bison in the state who pay per capita and are owned by ranchers and are raised commercially. And so it's important to have those two definitions be very distinct. We appreciate MACO, the Montana Association of Counties, kind of spearheading that bill, and Representative Holmland for carrying it. So after we get the definition clarified, there's a opportunity to make some solutions, and one of those bills is House Bill 318, sponsored by Representative Kastmeyer, and that bill provides for the ability for local control and local input on the establishment of a wild or free-roaming bison herd. Our members are opposed to the establishment of such a herd of wild bison, and this county would help them in that cause, this bill would help them in that cause, because it provides county commissioners the ability to weigh in on that decision, and also to consider many things in this, but ultimately be able to make the decision whether or not that's allowed in their county. And I think it's important to note that this does not completely stop the transport of bison. They can still continue to be transferred to tribal entities as per current law, and they could potentially be put somewhere in the state if it is a place where wild populations are tolerated. And but in counties like where some thoughts have been proposed in the past, those would not be, their county commissioners could say no. So that's a great bill. We hope to see that pass and get it fully across the finish line this year.
Absolutely.
You want to tell us about your other, here's a new one finally, some new information.
Well, yeah, and I will tell you about that, but I see we have Alina on and John. I even saw my mom join, so hi, Mom.
Oh, hi. I'm just looking for questions.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, put them there, but
there's
otherwise
a lot
we'll
of
just
snow
say
out
hi.
here, and I don't have my muck boots on. Don't laugh at me.
But I got to testify on House Bill 352 that was brought this week from Representative Hinkle out of the Gallatin County area. And this bill was about conservation easements, and changed it so that if someone is taking advantage of a conservation easement, that they would allow, they would be forced to allow public access on that. And we did go in and oppose that. We think there's a lot of great benefits to conservation easements. And if you want to take advantage of those benefits, you shouldn't have to be forced into allowing the public on that conservation easement.
It should be a decision between the landowner and the purchasing entity that's purchasing the easement. So putting those requirements in law is just, it's an overreach for sure.
Absolutely, and it's got to be mutually beneficial, and if it's not going to be beneficial to both parties, it won't be used. So we think there's a lot of good aspects to that. That bill had a lot of opposition. We actually the testimony was limited from the beginning to 3 minutes per person, and it went over an hour. So we are hopeful that the committee got that message from a lot of really diverse stakeholders that provided opposition on that bill. So we'll be keeping up with that one to see where it goes along its process. But it was heard on I think Wednesday or Tuesday. But that was the 352. So we'll keep everyone updated on that one. And then if you want to talk about the bills that happened last week and this week.
Sure. I'll just touch on it real quickly. We talked a lot last week about House Bill 324, is that the number? Mm-hmm. The placarding bill that was heard in the House. Just wanted to let you know that it was tabled yesterday, Thursday afternoon, at the same time as another bill that was almost identical to it. Senate Bill 210 was being heard in Senate Ag. That bill had a very similar hearing to 372, or 324, excuse me, which is not surprising because it's a very similar bill. Again, we expressed that this bill, neither of the bills actually are country of origin labeling as the proponents purport them to be. They just require retailers to put up a sign on beef or pork items saying where they came from, or if they don't have that information, to say that it's the definition changed from last year, imported or origin unlabeled. The problem with this is, of course, boxed beef comes into retailers with a USDA inspected stamp on it, but does not say where that animal lived or was born. It just says it was processed at a USDA inspected plant, which should provide consumers a lot of confidence in that, because being processed at a USDA inspected plant does show that, doesn't guarantee food safety and wholesomeness. So that's an important thing to remember in this. At any rate, these bills do not, actually allow for positive marketing of Montana beef and pork products. There are other ways that we can do that. already in law, and so we oppose both those bills. I've talked about them way too much this week, so we'll just suffice to say we hope to see the Senate do the same as the House did and table that bill. Interestingly enough, we had a couple members actually call in as opponents as well. So the most exciting part of my day yesterday was getting to hear one of our members testify as a calf was being born. He had to run out right before it was his turn to testify, check on the calf, and run back in and give his testimony. So we appreciate both Wes and Casey making the time to do that. But check out some Twitter and social media about the calf that was named Senator, who was born yesterday during the hearing. And so that was kind of fun.
The legislators definitely like to learn about that, and they even got to see some pictures of that calf, which was really exciting, especially for some of the legislators that might not be used to seeing calving pictures right now. And that's just a really great opportunity to kind of share about, we might be in this different time right now dealing with the hybrid session, but we have this great opportunity where you can testify and stay at home and keep calving or ranching or farming or whatever it is that you need to be doing at home, and you don't have to come all the way to Helena, and it's possible to make that balance. So thanks Casey and Wes for testifying, and we always, as always, the legislators really like to hear from our members and from people out there. So
I only have 2 minutes left till I gotta get on my other call. Why don't you tell them about HJ7?
Yeah, so I'll really quickly talk about HJ7, which had to do with the state of Montana giving its support for fixing the funding mechanism, as well as the repairs for the St. Mary and Milk River diversion up in the northeast corner of the state. As a lot of you listening know, that a drop site failed last spring, and it was a really, really big issue, and there was a ton of support for that yesterday from, again, a lot of different kind of stakeholders that know how important it is to have that water for irrigators, for different kinds of agriculture, for the communities up along the High Line, as well as for different kinds of recreation. So we supported that. We heard some great testimony and some great presentations about that, and are really excited to see and hope for for some money and from the federal government to help us get those problems fixed.
Yeah, that's a serious issue up there. So that'd be really important to get our express support for the project, and hopefully have Congress help us with the issue.
Yeah. So
we had one question, which I'll address, and then I'll let you keep talking if you want. I just don't want to miss out, because actually the webinar Zoom meeting I'm going to listen in on has to do with this bill that we had received a question about. The interstate compacting bill for meat, which is House Bill 336, will be heard on Tuesday of next week. What this bill seeks to do is to set up a framework to allow Montana to ship state-inspected meat across state lines commercially. The problem with doing this is that under current law, state-inspected meat can be sold commercially within state boundaries. USDA-inspected meat can be sold commercially in-state or across state boundaries. That is because that's what the Federal Meat Inspection Act allows for and makes possible. This bill would violate that important federal act and potentially put our state and custom exempt processing programs in jeopardy here in the state. And just to summarize it very quickly, is if we are without our state and custom exempt processors, we're going to be in big trouble, because there's already capacity issues, and if those are threatened and forced to be put on hold or anything like that, we're going to have even more of a capacity issue. So we've really been working to try to help find solutions that will help actually deal with this problem, and it'll be very interesting to see how the hearing goes on Tuesday. So stay tuned. We'll be talking a lot more about it. But it's actually lucky for me, my counterparts in Arizona are actually hosting a roundtable discussion about a program called Cooperative Interstate Shippers, which is an FSIS approved program that we have offered as maybe another idea on this subject to the legislators, and I get to go and listen in on their expertise. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, but thank you all for tuning in, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, have a good one. Enjoy the conference. I'll stick around for a couple more minutes, you guys. If anyone has questions about any of the things that we've talked about today, please feel free to comment them. And as always, if you are tuning in later and have questions as you're watching, we do keep track of the comments on these things, and we will answer them later on. So if you have more questions, place them in the comments. I saw some other people, I think someone said it looks pretty tropical today, so it's not below 0, so I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on, and a lot of stuff to come next week. You know, as we get through the next couple of weeks closer to transmittal, when all of the bills have to be transferred from one chamber to the next to be heard along their journey through their legislative process. You know, we're expecting to see a lot of water bills coming up. This meatpacking one is really important, and just other things as they come along. Like we talked about, that elk bill will be coming. So stay tuned. If you have questions along the way, we're going to try and post more and more on social media so you guys can try and stay up to date on everything. And as always, send out our weekly emails and do our Facebook posts, as well as you'll see a legislative highlight in the mail coming. So I don't see any more questions coming up. So I think Nicole left, but we've talked plenty about a lot of topics. So with that, I will finish it up. So thanks everyone for tuning in and for asking your questions, and staying updated with the legislative session. So with that, happy Friday. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend, stays nice and warm. So with that, we'll see you later.